Hello out there. It is Jane again, Jane McLaren, Clinical Manager of the Vida Therapy Service. And I've been posting over the last few weeks some videos to offer some strategies to try and cope with this current situation and the anxiety that might be happening for all of you out there trying to cope with this uncertain time. But I suppose I've been thinking a lot about, well, that might be anxiety on top of anxiety. And certainly for a lot of women and girls that are using our service, they're already feeling anxious, already feeling low in mood. And this current situation that we found ourselves in might have really heightened some anxiety because of the uncertain times that we're in. And so the videos that I've been posting are focused on kind of how do we manage at the moment? How do we learn to cope with changes in mood and cope with what we might find ourselves doing an awful lot, trying to predict what might happen in the future. So the first video, we focused on that looking to the future and trying to predict what might happen. And one thing we might notice doing when we are particularly anxious is that we tend to have a pattern of looking to the future, but catastrophizing about that future. What if? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if I lose my job? What if I can't cope? What if that happens? I wonder what I would do if that happens. And that drives us into a state of anxiety. Because what we know is that activates our fight or flight system. And what do? We tend to find ourselves worrying even more about those imaginary worst case scenarios, expecting the worst. So that first video looked at, okay, when we can notice ourselves doing that, how can we respond differently to it that might help reduce our anxiety in the here and the now? Well, the only thing we can do really in response to predictions in the future is to switch our attention to the present. So that first video looked at explaining the process of worrying and then offering a way of managing worries by bringing our attention into the present where we can control the decisions we make in the here and the now. So then the second video looked at what can we do in the here and the now then, in the present moment, that's going to help us cope with anxiety. Well, one of the things that we know is really beneficial to all of us is physical activity. You know, getting that body moving. And actually, when you think about anxiety and you think about the threat system and that fight flight, it is all that adrenaline pumping around the body. So physically moving is one way of using up that adrenaline. And there's emerging evidence about getting into contact with nature. And we're hearing a lot about that at the moment, the benefits of being in nature and being in contact with nature. So that second video looked at, in the here and the now, when we're switching our attention, what can we do? Well, one of the things we can do is get the body moving. That might be, for those of you who can get out, go out for a walk in nature. For those that can't get out, we've posted a video on the website that is a virtual walk in nature. So you can immerse yourself in that video and reap the benefits of a virtual walk. When we are on those kind of nature walks, let's call them, there's no point being on that walk and then catching yourself worrying about the future again. Have you ever done that? I know I've certainly done it. I've been driving sometimes and I don't know how I've got from A to B, because in A to B, I've been thinking about all sorts of situations So you might notice doing that, just going on a walk, doing the physical activity and not noticing any benefit because you're still anxious. That might be because our mind has gone to those worst case scenarios again, and we are not truly immersing ourselves in the present moment. So how do we immerse ourselves in the present moment? Okay, think about it this way. Ask yourself questions. What can I see? So if we're out and about, I might see trees, cars, houses, people, flowers, the blue sky, the clouds. I could see a whole range of things. So I can start that conversation with myself. What can you see, Jane? Well, I can see this. How blue is the sky? Well, it's a beautiful blue today. The sun is out. Then you can ask yourself, okay, so that's what I can see. What can I hear? So, birds, beautiful birds singing at the moment. And the dawn chorus is glorious if you're awake at that time. Tune into it. Hear what those birds sound like and immerse yourself in really hearing it. It might be on your walk, you can hear traffic. You might hear, I don't know, the wind. You might hear people in the distance. You might hear a whole range of things, but the important thing is trying to tune into it. So what can you see? What can you hear? And what are you feeling on this walk? And I mean, maybe, what does the ground feel like? What does the temperature feel like? So just remember those 3 areas when you're walking, or any activity that you are doing that's in the present moment. What do I see? What can I hear? And what does it feel like? So it might be walking. It could easily be knitting. It could be doing a puzzle. It could be washing the pots. You know, what do I see? Well, when I'm washing the pots, I can look out the window and see the garden. What can I feel? The temperature of the water, the soapiness of the bubbles, the hardness of the plates. What can I hear? The squeaking of the plate as I clean it, the swishing of the water. You get the idea, don't you? Those 3 questions. What can I see? What can I hear? What can I feel in the present moment, whatever activity you're doing? And if you are watching a video of the walk, same thing applies. What can you see? What can you hear? What can you feel? The seat underneath you as you are watching the video. Okay, so that's the second video. So that was more about behaviours in the present moment and how we can immerse our attention in the present moment. So today then, we're going to go back around to this thinking that we do and worrying. And when we notice ourselves in that future prediction, catastrophizing, what if, we might then notice what we call secondary appraisals, secondary thoughts really, secondary ideas about how might I cope in those situations. So I might catch myself saying, oh, I'll never cope with that. I'm not good enough with that. I don't deserve good things to happen to me because I'm such an idiot. I am so stupid. I will absolutely be overwhelmed. I'll never cope with that. I can fill my head with all of these negative, critical thoughts about my capacity to cope with all those worst case scenarios. So how am I going to feel? I'm going to feel scared, anxious, maybe even deflated, demoted, hopeless. And I might then feel frozen in that out of control sensation. The future is doom and gloom. And how I'm going to cope with that is not very good. That's that critical part of me saying you are not good enough, you'll never cope, you are useless, you're not worthy, all of that stuff. Do any of you recognise that coming up? hopefully a lot of us do, because I can tell you, it is pretty common. Now then, how do we respond to those kind of thoughts that are really critical? We call them critical thoughts, negative automatic thinking, negative automatic thoughts about ourselves. How can we respond differently? That might be a way of learning to not listen to them so much. How do we do that? Well, I'm going to ask you a question. If you had a friend who told you that they were useless, that they felt stupid, they felt bad about themselves, that they're never going to cope, how might you respond to that friend? I wonder if we might, with our friends, offer understanding, if we might offer some kind words, if we might say, I totally know that sounds awful, but remember, you are okay, you're great. You know that friend who builds you up? Well, we would probably do that for other people. And if you think about it, aren't we all doing that at the moment? In this current crisis, we are offering support, understanding and compassion to those people out there who are on the front line, working really hard to help and support people in need, poorly people. And every Thursday night we're out there, aren't we? Giving our support, giving our compassion and understanding. I wonder why we can't do that for ourselves. So one of the things we can learn to develop is that compassionate part of ourselves. We have a critical part that's really loud, that is really judgmental and critical of ourselves. And don't we tune into it? And don't we believe that stuff? Okay, well actually, we know we can offer compassion to other people. So therefore we have the capacity for compassion. Can we then offer it back to ourselves? Can we develop a part of ourselves that is compassionate and understanding and supportive of ourselves? So it responds to this critical part. It steps back and challenges this. Is that true? Really? Honestly? What else can that compassionate part of you say in response to the critic in you? There is a lot of emerging evidence, again, around developing a compassionate part of ourselves. One of the ways is challenging the critical part. We just talked about that. And another way of developing a compassionate part is to get into a habit of asking yourself, today, what have I done that I feel grateful for? Or what's around me that I am grateful for? We are trying to develop what might be a very neglected part of ourselves. Learning to appreciate ourselves. Coming from a place where we know we're doing our best. And we're working hard at it. So instead of listening and believing this critical part, why not challenge it? Why not bring a dose of compassion to it? Just try it. Step back and challenge the critical part of you with kindness, understanding, and compassion. Okay, I'm going to leave you there for now. I hope that you are all staying safe and well, and I'm going to tune in with you again next week. In the meantime, if you want to reach out to us, you can email us, you can still call us, you can look at our website, tune into our resources, or you can catch us up on Facebook. We're here, we're continuing to deliver our services, and we continue to wish you all well. See you later. Bye-bye.